Karen.
Then we'll wait just a sec till Karen gets seated.
Sorry, little basketball players coming in.
We'll have an audience.
Sure. That's it.
Yes.
We'll call the policy committee to order. Have we been properly posted?
Yes, we have.
Thank you. Please note all members are here. We have no citizens to speak, so we will get to our first action item, approval of policy minutes from the January meeting.
Madam Chairman, I move that we accept the policy committee meeting minutes from the last meeting as presented.
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion or additions, corrections? Not? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is revisions to policy 5121, grading policy. And we have,
This is basically the policy that was presented in CNI. CNI then approved it, but contingent on policy approval because this is where it's written up. So Jody's here if there's any questions on this, but this was reviewed in CNI, and they did approve it unanimously to move to policy to, correct our policy.
okay, please proceed.
Yeah. Jody, I'm wondering if maybe this should be reviewed by the Administrative Policy Committee, because the program that we're using for grading now is Grading for Learning, and I think we should maybe allude to it in this grading policy, especially because I got a long message today from a parent, who was confused and not real happy, but I think we should review this and include in there, it's up to you, of course, Grading for Learning and what it's about, because this really isn't accurate, especially lines 33 to 35, where we're talking about example, 2.0, et cetera, and it doesn't say anything about the grades being based on rubrics, et cetera. So I think we can
But
vote
we're
for
actually
it.
going back to that. So I think before we change
Okay.
this, we need to make sure we've got
Okay.
that kind of
Well,
ironed out.
Yeah,
So-
and
Yeah.
you're spot on with where we're going, Barb. I think I'd like to take the same approach as we have with this. It's let's do some discussion and action
Sure.
at CNI and then bring it to policy.
Sure.
I was actually going
Sure.
to foreshadow that you'll probably be seeing me a lot regarding 5121
Right,
in the next coming months.
right.
So we'd like to just take care of this clause today, knowing
That'll
that
be
there's
fine.
more to come.
Yeah, I would agree to that, but I think
Okay.
we need to take a look and
Absolutely.
tweak it as needed based on what we're doing, okay?
definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And just for anybody watching, Jody Landish is here from the administrative team. That's who's been the expert on this, so to
Sure.
say. Or will be for sure by the time we get it done.
Yes.
Karen, do you have some questions?
Thank you. And this may be the question or the two questions for CNI,
Okay.
if this goes there. But one was on line 33, semester exam grades may be included and may count up to 20% of the semester grade. I just underlined up to because I didn't know if it's dependent on the teacher of that course, whether it's 90-10 or 80-20. I didn't know about that. And then on the second page, page 2, line 10, in order to develop consistent rubrics for assessing the content area, teachers shall collaborate with grade level colleagues. I thought how we were trying to make I thought you were talking about some area, maybe it's a technology piece where they can all
Warehouse.
go and they don't have to recreate the wheel and that they can all see what they're doing.
Yes.
So to shall collaborate, I just feel like then if someone has the same, or if a couple kids have the same course, but they have different teachers and one counts different than the other one, I was just trying to make sure that it's kind of like what we're doing with our high schools with the discipline, just trying to make sure everybody's on the same page. I thought that if we leave those shall or up to, I didn't know if those are some gray areas, so maybe that's for CNI.
But the first one
Absolutely.
refers to, I think you're confusing the homework policy, the 80-20.
Okay,
That's a different that's not even in here. But the semester exam
That
is
should
a
be
different
reviewed,
piece. That can count up to 20%. That's like a comprehensive exam, for example.
and that's dependent on
That's
the
different from
instructor?
the homework, but it is dependent on the probably more like the department, I'm thinking more of
Course
the,
alikes.
Okay.
the department's gonna get together and maybe develop a common assessment or something.
I see, okay,
But that's different from the homework, which we are, obviously changing our rules on that. so.
okay.
I still made a note, Karen, to review that. I think it's both good review in our discussion of Waukesha for Learning, so
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Zink.
Well, so getting back to Karen's concern on the up to, do the teachers inform the students before exam time? This exam will count as 10% of your grade, or 15, or do they do that before so the kids know, so there's no question?
I'm
should be.
assuming that most of them have it in the syllabus from day
Right,
one, so
right.
they all know.
Okay, so that's
they
stated
should
very
have
clearly.
that, yeah.
Okay, well, that's
Yeah.
good, that's good. And then I'm thinking, on Karen's second comment, where she said the word shall, is it true that in some content areas, there's really only one teacher in the building?
There could be, especially in our elective areas.
Yeah,
there's
that's
some
what I was thinking.
singletons, right?
So is it possible that there's time allotted for them to get together with their job alikes at other high schools?
There
Oh,
is.
Wonderful.
We, on any given week, we have a group of various, similar like curriculum people from across, say, the high schools or the middle schools up here working on these kind of things. So,
Great.
it's not every teacher, but it might be a representative from various departments from each of the three
Okay.
high schools or 4 high schools that are
Okay.
working on this, so.
All right. Well, thank you for clarifying that, and thank you for bringing that up.
Any other questions? Do we want to take action, or do we want to refer this to committee? What-
Well, I just have one more question, please, Madam Chairman. On the second page of line 30, where it says homeschool grades reported by parents, how do we know? And I'm not saying what parents do at home is not legitimate, et cetera, but how do we know that, what they're reporting as grades are reflective of what we would consider an A or what we would consider a 3, et cetera? How do we know that if we accept homeschool grades?
I'm not clear about the language, but I know DPI has strict
Okay.
requirements that the homeschool forms need to be met, so they fill those out through DPI.
Okay,
But I can't speak to our homeschool transcription process.
It's rare.
Yeah, I'm sure it is rare, but
Yeah.
Usually if they come in, they'll come in like prior to high school, so we don't have that issue, but, it's just never been an issue in the past. We've never
that's
really
good.
run into it.
That's good. So, but all homeschooled kids don't use a curriculum that the parents purchase from somewhere. Don't some parents develop their own curriculum and use their own materials? And that's acceptable to DPI?
I think they still have to meet the criteria that
Right,
DPI
and
sets
I-
out to get credit for a particular class, but
Okay.
how they get there might be different.
Okay,
Just
but-
like
Yep.
if you were to go to our high schools in there, you'd probably see a little bit different curriculum in the same
Sure.
type of class.
Sure. So if I ran a homeschool, then I would have to, I'm not going to, but if I did, I would have to contact DPI to make sure that my student would be getting credit toward graduation.
Correct.
Thank you.
This also says accept. So that grade wouldn't count towards the scholarship.
Oh, so-
On line 26, all subjects which receive a letter grade on a student transcript are
Except,
included
you're right. Okay,
in the
That's for
word accept.
scholarships purposes.
thank you. Thank you, Pat. Okay.
So Todd, would you prefer us to pass this?
Sure, yeah, I mean, this is something, I think, as kids start signing up for these, that we should know, they should know the situation, so that there's no confusion if they sign up and say, well, if I'd have known that, I wouldn't have taken it, or, so.
And then we'll keep amending it as
As-
Yeah, well, we have a
progresses.
ways to go, you know, the grading, probably another 6 weeks of work on that to get everyone set on it. And then once we feel pretty comfortable with it, we'll bring back the changes, so. I have a feeling this will be changed a number of times yet this, for
Sure.
the next
I think so.
12 months, so.
That sounds like it.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Somebody want to make a motion to accept the grading policy as is?
I will, Madam Chairman. I move that we accept revisions to policy 5121, grading policy as presented.
Second?
Thank you. Any other discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
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 That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next action item is, or possible at least, is revisions to potential new policy, post-issuance compliance policy.
And this one had a first reading last Wednesday, and the issue was, it just said post-issuance policy, which was very non-descriptive, so we added of debt in there, so that was really the only change. And I thought because it was the title, that it should come back and just get approval of that, and then it could go to the board the next time for a final vote.
Yeah, they had requested that we,
Yeah, I believe that was the only change. It's all stuff.
Stuff.
that's what
Attorneys.
I had marked down, that was the only change they wanted,
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the title. Any questions? Any questions? Okay.
No?
Somebody want to make a motion to pass this then?
I'd like to make a motion to accept or to pass the motion for potential new policy, post-issuance compliance policy as presented.
Second.
And that's just so we know it's post-issuance of debt policy.
Debt policy.
That's the
Correct.
new title.
Correct.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Well, I'd like to ask,
Yes.
could you give me a one-pager on this, or maybe a one sentence on the meaning of this, Todd, or, if anyone knows, you know.
Yeah, it requires us to make sure we provide continuing disclosure information to, it's the, I don't want to say a bond house, but it's through the SEC, making sure that we're providing financial information, so people in the public who might want to buy one of our bonds that could be on the
Okay.
market have that
Okay.
information. And then each year you have to say, we're, you know, here's our financial status, here's our credit rating, we're not in default, we haven't defeased the debt, all that kind of stuff. So there's a list of things that we have to file, and the name of the organization eludes me right now, but it's an annual requirement for anyone who issues
Okay.
general obligation
Thank you.
bonds.
Thank you.
But it's a lot of stuff just to
It
say
is,
that,
you know, and I read it over a couple
That's
of.
how attorneys get paid.
Yeah, a
They,
couple of
you know,
times, and I
write
thought,
pages and pages.
nah, too much legalese here. I'm gonna ask Todd. He'll give me a one-pager on it, and now I understand. Thank you, Todd.
Barbara, that's now called a tweet. Can you
True.
put it in a tweet form? It's like, it's under 150 words or something like that, right?
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That was passed unanimously.
And again, that will go for approval at the March meeting, since it was there once already.
All right.
Thank you.
We have no information items, discussion items. Somebody is working on a policy for rental property of our fields, et cetera, which,
Right, it wasn't ready to go
right.
last Friday.
as
and it
long as
was-
we're working on it,
Yeah.
people will be happy.
Yep.
It's the
There's a few other ones too that we have coming, but they just weren't ready for
Right.
for our meeting
Friday,
tonight.
so.
And I think Ryan is gonna bring back the field trip policy.
Right.
We discussed it briefly yesterday at a little meeting we had, and there's still some
Tweaks we need
some
in that
tweaks,
one
yeah,
too, huh?
right.
Do you have any new items for us, Karen?
No, but I do have a question, if I
Yes.
can ask it. So when Barbara brought up the homeschooling, let's say if a child didn't have enough time in the day, sometimes that, like my daughter takes an e-achieve course, just to get one more thing in
Okay.
there. Can a parent homeschool a child for like one course like that is that optional or no? Or
Well, if
what
they're
do they
going
do?
through e-Achieve, they're not homeschooling it.
No, like, let's say if e-Achieve didn't exist, or if I didn't want to do e-Achieve, could a parent just teach
For one course,
or two or something?
I don't know, a better option might see if there's an independent study through the school. We have situations where the student is generally a homeschool student, and they might come to the school for a class like tech ed for some, or, for example, but I think the situation you're talking about is kind of rare. But there might be an independent study option that would work the same way.
When we do graduations, I see kids with 4.5s, 4.6s, and I know that the option is to take other courses
Yeah.
and to try to get that GPA up also, when then they have the
Yeah.
weighted courses. I just didn't know if they could do that as a homeschool option.
No, the way that I've seen it done is by taking an extra e-Achieve class.
Okay.
And we have a number of students who've done that. Or they'll try to get their general courses done through e-Achieve so that they can take more electives during the regular school year. We've seen that happen too.
Okay.
Or some students will take summer school so that they can get, electives during the year. And they can maybe get some of the CAP courses that's paid for through get credits towards university degree and so on. So kids are pretty resourceful when it comes to those kind of things. And we offer a lot of options, which I think is a good thing too.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Zink.
Todd, I see that the governor is considering or going to approach the legislature to allow people to teach without an education degree. They have to have a college degree, I
Right.
believe, but not an education degree. Now, would we have to address this through policy? Or would
I
that be
guess
law?
we need to see the final law. I don't
Okay,
know how that's going to
it'll be a law.
In some particular cases, might that be a help in the case of say, when we're low on substitute teachers? There could be a situation where we could use some teachers there. Tech ed courses, for example, or an engineering course, where an
Sure.
engineer wanted to come in and teach, but, had a good career in engineering, but maybe didn't have a teaching certificate to teach alongside a teacher, for example. So I'm not really opposed to the issue. I would be concerned with flooding a whole school full of non-certified teachers. I think that would be
Yeah.
an issue. But it sounds like we have control over
Oh,
who we
good.
hire. So, where we have some areas that there's not enough teachers, tech ed, business ed, some of the courses like that, which really, the state universities are putting out many of those types of teachers. It may make sense to look at someone who has a lot of expertise.
Sure.
And who could possibly, you could give that individual, say, the teacher insight. And it might be that somehow they score well on that, and that kind of individual might be eligible
Okay.
to take a course or a couple of courses.
So it would be a law then, if that was allowed?
I believe so.
Okay.
I haven't seen I haven't seen if it's going to be a regulation of law. I just know that, when the governor puts out his budget proposals, they're usually pretty broad.
Yes.
There's not a lot of detail to them. That's what the legislature does, is take that and kind of mold it into something with a little more detail. So a lot of the things that the governor's put out there, there's just not a lot of detail yet.
Yes,
And we're
yes.
trying to, figure out how this is
Yes.
going to work.
Okay, just was wondering about that. Would that be law, would it be policy, what would it be? Thank you.
Can I just say one more thing on that? On the WASB convention, that was one of the things that the delegates voted on, and we voted yes on that.
Yes, meaning what? Yes to,
To allow it.
to allow it.
So it was at
Yeah.
WASB convention and,
Well, I mean, again, the districts, we have full control over that, but there are a lot of areas. I'm very concerned that, UW Whitewater is considering canceling their program for business education teachers. Who's going to do that? I mean, that used to be the premier program
Oh,
in the state.
absolutely.
Tech ed, the Stout,
Stouts, yeah.
simply doesn't graduate enough students to
they
fill the
don't.
state.
No,
Those are just two examples. There's a couple others out there as well.
Platteville, probably.
We might have some very, very good aides in the district that have a four-year degree and do a great job with kids, but, you know, by virtue of not having the actual teaching certificate, they can't, you know, get that.
Sure,
It
sure.
might be a special ed situation, for example. And so this would allow us a little bit more flexibility in filling some of those hard-to-fill
Sure,
positions.
sure. Thank you.
Okay. Right. No other business. Our next meeting is Tuesday, March 17th at 5:30. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.
Thank you.